Hello, and welcome to Spherical Luminosity's YouTube Live. So let's see. We are going to talk about something that doesn't potentially seem that exciting, but actually is an important discussion. So today we are discussing awakening. Do you really want it? And it sounds like a potentially controversial subject because you might just say to yourself, well, yes, I do, but let's see what the nuances are. So if you could comment in the chat, as some of you have done, your first name and where you're from so I can see you. I've seen that Marika's here. The Lawrenson clan is here. Marika, Mary, and Michael, all from Colorado. I saw Stephanie from Alaska. I think it seems to be snowing in Alaska and Colorado. And then we have Carolina all the way from Ireland, and Pam and Chris from Mexico, Brigitte from Ontario. And let's see who else is here. Marty Sayers from Colorado, and hello, Pauline Chung, and Teresa Dresp from Minneapolis.
And my mother.
Oh, and Fiona's mum. Liz Malcolm tuning in from New Zealand. Welcome, Liz, and welcome to everyone else who is here. We have Kim from Florida, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Karen Chong, and many of you know me already, and some of you don't. So for those of you who are new, I help to catalyze awakening and a rise in human consciousness by releasing people's blocks at what I refer to as frequency level, amplifying your awareness of the divine within so you can recognize and live the abundance and limitlessness of your true nature as infinite, indestructible consciousness. This is your birthright, and the time for humanity to awaken to this possibility is now. So for those of you who are brand new to frequency work and don't know much about it, I can only give a brief overview in the amount of time I have. So after this, if you want to learn more, I'd recommend checking out episodes 176 and 154 of my podcast, Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, which you can find on this very same channel. The first two episodes, 1 and 176, are all about the fundamentals of frequency work, and episode 154 is the top 5 most important things about frequency work. And if you're super duper curious and want extra bonus points, you can also check out episode 131, where we discuss the top 18 questions we get here at Spherical Luminosity. And additionally, there's also the How It Works section of the website, sphericalluminosity.com, if you want to find out what we do specifically. So, like I said, today we are talking about something that on its face, you might have just answered yes to, right? Without thinking about it too much. But the reason we're bringing it up is because it's such a pivotal time where we're on the cusp of many different things, and choices that are being made by the collective are impacting the collective in ways that most people aren't aware of. So today we're talking about awakening. Do you really want it? And I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Fiona Malcolm. All right. So why this question and all that good stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think earlier in the week we heard from a friend that posed the question, or posed the statement really, that some people don't want to awaken.
Yeah, it's like a guru or something she'd said.
Yeah.
A post of, yeah.
I had such a reaction to that.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I thought, well, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we working so hard? And I mean, all of us.
Yeah.
Everybody that's live now, and why are we working so hard to work through our distortion patterns and our frequencies, and move up into this higher level of consciousness and bring in the collective, when this guru person believes that a lot of people don't want to awaken.
Yeah.
That made me angry, sad, frustrated, disappointed. I was like really interested in watching my reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you believe that?
I actually do, because I don't think that everybody wants to awaken. And the reason is because, well, let me back up. I think there's a lot of myth around awakening. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this thing that you hear of, and maybe you might hear about it like when you're, starting to explore spirituality and things like outside of yourself, or, like just like energetic modalities. Like when I was in my late teens, 18, 19, 20 in university and that type of stuff, I was curious.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to look for mystical books. And, I was curious. And so I started reading about this thing called awakening, because Buddhism was interesting to me because I was like, I don't really know what this is, but it seems kind of cool. And then it quickly got more technical for me than I could really fathom. But there was this thing they kept talking about, like enlightenment. And I was like, well, what is that? Because everything seems to be geared towards getting there. It's like books have been written, libraries have been filled, all this sort of stuff. And so it's got to be good, right? I mean, like, why would you go through all that trouble if it wasn't amazing?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Like I say, it's a lot of work. What do you mean nobody wants to awaken?
So it's a lot of work. So I was like, well, it's got to be good, right? I mean, if you're going to throw down all that work. So, and I think a lot of people will talk about it in various ways, like this really like glorious moment. And I think a lot of people imagine it to be something. It's like it's like very cosmic. Whenever I see things on it, it's funny, I was watching this little clip on someone's podcast, and they were saying that they were writing into AI, like ChatGPT, what awakening was. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to see what an awakened rabbit would look like. And so the artificial intelligence pulls from all of, what's existing in the internet. And what was fascinating to me is that it pulls from everything that's on the internet about awakening, which is very much like a mental projection of what awakening is.
Yeah.
So the bunny in these different pictures would go from like, it would look kind of like it was stoned. Basically, it got more and more psychedelic, and like rays coming out of its eyes. It was in the cosmos. You know what I mean? That's what AI was showing, that what awakening was through this bunny, which I thought was hilarious. But it's interesting to me because what it is a very mental projection of the awakened process, right? So, to my point, there's a lot of myth around it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people believe that like when they attain awakening, bliss happens, like the ecstatic happens. And I always find that really fascinating too, as like this idea of like, I don't know, when you get there, like rainbows, unicorns, blissed out, ecstatic, I don't know what the thing is. But that at least is, I think, a lot of what's out there in like the spiritual communities.
But wouldn't you want that? Like,
yeah.
Wouldn't you want, if that's awakening, give me some of that,
But some people, this is distortions at work. They don't want it because they're like...
They like their misery?
Well, I think they think it's too out there, that they can't, like it's not possible for them. Then they have these non-worthiness patterns. That's not possible. Then they have all this religious distortion around it, So I think that there's resistance to that idea, even though it sounds kind of great. And I think there's resistance to it. And I think that people, what they're missing is in the awakening process, to come into this space where you start to resonate high enough that you start to feel more your connection to the oneness, where you have these glimpses of this infiniteness that you are, this still expansion, or this feeling of within, which is like very calm and quiet, or this feeling of like more feeling sense, for example, or just feeling better. In terms of like your general outlook is like really like good, you know what I mean? Like you're generally feeling great, right? Because we all sense in different ways. But I think that that is not something that's talked about that much because it's sort of less exciting, I think, than the ecstatic.
Right, and it requires work.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
Okay, maybe I can see it from that point of view that you don't want to awaken because it requires you to make effort.
Yeah.
Requires you to actually do the work.
Yes.
Because there is nobody out there that's going to do it for you.
No.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
They can shine a torch or they can lead the path, but in the end, you got to walk it.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So maybe, but then it still has me thinking, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I want to do it for me.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, I mean, is what we're doing going to help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the point of the post was that most people don't want to awaken because they have to give up their ego identity. And most people are very attached to who they think they are. And I think that when it takes like a courageous soul to really start to let go of things, like who you think you are, the way you think the world should be, what you think is right, all your shoulds, all that stuff that you think is like you, to release it is, I think, really scary for some people.
Right.
And so if they really knew that awakening is divesting yourself of those things, which is to me a form of freedom.
Yeah.
Because where do those things come from in the first place? So,
Yeah.
we talk about it as distortion patterns, but like all that stuff is distortion, and it keeps you from really being able to interface with the brilliance around you, running through you, that is the oneness. But we really hang on to it because that's our way of seeing the world, because we think it's us.
So the projection of us is more comfortable than maybe having to look at what could be possible beyond that?
Yeah.
Is that what you're
Exactly.
saying? Okay.
And I think that most people, my feeling is that there is this thing within the spiritual community that there's this resonance of like wanting to be like, just like get rid of it all, right? And then I'll be awake and everything will be fine. But the thing is, it's a funny, I'm not saying this because it's about suffering, like you're supposed to suffer. I'm not saying that.
No.
What I'm suggesting is that there is something in the strengthening of being able to see what it is that you're clinging to and ask yourself the question, do you want it? Is it serving me? Is it really for my highest good? Is there something that I can be that is more free here than this idea that I'm hanging on to, or this sense of whatever is happening because of my distortion? And I think that is something that most people don't really understand. You know what I mean? Like they don't, there's a strengthening in the releasing of that yourself.
Yeah.
That's an empowerment because you did it. You took a look at yourself and you're like, okay, well, this is actually keeping me pinned in. It's not liberating me. Do I really want it?
Yeah, and that comes, like, for me, that comes back to, it's that story of the twins, right? Because sometimes it's really comfortable for people just to be in that same place where they can constantly blame the world for what's happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know that story of the twins?
No.
Where, so the dad was an alcoholic, the mother was a drug addict, and they used to beat each other up and beat the kids up, and these twins grew up, and one twin looked at that and thought, well, I'm not living that life. There's something better for me. I'm going to get out there and make it different. And the other twin was like, well, look at me. How can I get ahead?
Yeah.
You know, I've got parents like that. And, you know, one became a doctor and the other one became a drug addict. Well, what did you expect? You know, and the other one was like, well, I wasn't going to be like them.
Yeah.
You know, is it inherent? Or is that just, I don't know, is it DNA? Did he take on lineage patterns, one and not the other?
Yeah. So I feel like it depends on your choice as a being. Because, you know, not everybody wants to I know it sounds odd, but every few thousand years, what happens is there's an option for all beings to rise in consciousness. It's not just at the human level. It's not just on Earth. It's everywhere. And it's amazing how few beings take that choice to rise up. So I feel like it's an interesting question about free will. Like, why does one choose? Why does one seek to return to the one? So I feel like it's an inherent drive that you have as a being that is reflected in your humanness. So there's some of us who just want to grow. We want to merge into the oneness. We want to see what's possible on the level of consciousness. We want to break beyond what is the limitation in the 3D. We don't want to just make our illusion prettier and better. Like, I want more money. I want a better car. I want a better spouse. I want to, like, all these things. I want to win the lottery, whatever the thing is, right? You're like, wait a minute. Like, if I really create everything, like, can't we just create something like a whole hell of a lot better than like just a prettier form of the illusion?
Yeah.
And isn't there something more grand than just getting this stuff? Which is nothing wrong with the stuff. Okay, so I'm not saying that there's like no enjoyment from the stuff. The stuff is great. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, isn't there more than this?
Yeah.
The physical, isn't there something there that is greater? And everybody who's called to spiritual growth knows somewhere in their soul, they're just like in their cells, they're like, there's something there that's calling me that is beyond this physical. And what is it? I remember when I was in that spot, I was just like, I don't even know what it is. I couldn't even articulate it. But I knew there was something greater that I wanted to like explore and understand and to like get my hands in kind of. You know, and that's why I read all those books and whatever, right? Because I was fascinated by it. And I was like, well, someone just freaking tell me how to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And at this time, they're saying this is critical this year, that it's like
Yes.
big planetary shifts happening. And of course, we're so directly linked to her that it's affecting us at the same time.
Yeah.
And people, I'm noticing more and more people are being called to want to do something.
Yes.
It's really fascinating.
It's fascinating.
That's why when I heard that statement, I'm like, no, that's rubbish.
Yeah.
People do want to awaken. I've seen it.
Yes.
You know?
I would say it's true, but not everyone does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just want the things like, I want a better job. I want to feel less stressed. I want to be able to sleep better. Like, and that's all valid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't we want the human experience to be better? Sure.
Yeah.
But there's that. And then those who are called to something else, and that's awakening, right? That's not just making the illusion prettier and more beautiful and more palatable and more pleasurable. It's like, I want to know the mysteries. I want to know who I truly am. And if along the way, my reality can get really a hell of a lot better, that's kind of cool too.
Yeah,
you know?
like a secondary gain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, for me, I feel like I just want to keep on doing this work for that reason. I believe there's more than this.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, this is why I love frequency work, and this is why I like doing the retreats and going on the journeys. And so, like, do you feel that they're, like, for the people that want to do you think there's a different world or a different reality or a truth there that will be tapped into as a collective? Like, I mean, we went to Peru.
Yeah.
Right? And we're going to Scotland.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, we're going to Scotland to do something for the collective, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So to me, the way that spiritual awakening works is it's first of all, it's not an endpoint. It's not like it's like you get there and you're like, hooray! Awakened! And now everyone, like, you have this little halo. People are like, whoa, you're awakened. You're like, yep, here's my name tag. Awaken me! Right? I mean, I guess you could do that, but, you know, it's like this infinite thing. And it's kind of like, I remember when I went into university for the first time, and I went to one of these big libraries, you know, and it was massive. Like, it was this building with, like, floors and floors and floors and floors and floors and floors of books. And I was like,
Marvelous.
right? I was like, look at all this knowledge. And I was just like, I don't know anything. Right? Like, I stood there among the books and I was like, I don't know. I don't know very much.
I probably haven't even read one of them. Wow.
Exactly. Like, I started to recognize I didn't know that much, which was fine. But it's kind of like that with awakening, you know. At least that's my experience. It's like the more you rise in your vibration, you're like, whoa, there's even more. There's even more. There's even more. And that's why it's an infinite process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm coming back to the journeys that we've taken because for me that kind of amplifies what you're saying. You know, we started in Zihuatanejo.
Yeah.
And then we had this pool that we had to go to Peru. And then we're in Peru. And now we've got this pool that we have to go to Scotland. We have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
We have a kind of inkling or something, but we've no idea what unfolds. And then, you know, when you get there, there's something else. There's like another layer.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, like, from my perspective, what I forgot to mention in my little discussion just now is that as we do this work and as we ourselves as masterminds get higher and higher in our frequency resonance, what happens is that others get to the point that we are faster and more effectively because it already is seated in the field. So even though, and that's the thing about these journeys that we do at Serial Luminosity, they're not very, like, public. They're quiet. You know, I mean, it's not like you're out. I mean, I guess you could post it in your social media if you really wanted to, but it's not like people were like, oh, wow, you're the one who did that thing.
Yes.
It's not really about that. It's like the people who are called to these journeys or whatever it is that you're doing in frequency work, you're called because you know that there's something that you personally are seeking to do.
Yeah.
And then you have this realization on some level that there is a ripple effect. And you may not see it directly, but you might actually in your families and in your communities and just in the number of people, like you were saying, that are waking up right now. And it's kind of remarkable. And it's like sometimes the most unexpected people. You're like, whoa. You know what I mean? And they're starting to ask questions and starting to look for different answers. And you know, things that used to be like really freaking out there are like, whoa, that's actually considerable now, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Well, I had a situation like that with my Spanish teacher. I came in and he asked me, you know, how was Peru? And I thought, what do I say? Because I don't like to pretend I'm not who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm going to be who I am. Are you ready? Started talking about all this stuff, and I'm thinking, well, he's Spanish, he's very traditional, he's Catholic, and how's this going to go?
You start talking about portals and stuff.
Portals and dead people and now, again, I'm harping on about Scotland. He said, no, what are you going to do in Scotland? What do you think will happen in Scotland? I said, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I'm like, well, every time I come into the classroom, do you have any more information? I'm like, no, sorry, you'll have to wait till after.
Yeah, and that's the really fascinating thing, right? People are becoming curious. It's not just like this weird thing.
No.
And that's the thing that I love about all these journeys is that like we are not planning them. It's not like we sit down with a little PowerPoint pad and we're like, okay, so we're going to examine the list of places that we could potentially go to and make an analysis of what it is that we're going to do. Like, that's not what's happening at all. For these journeys, we're very called, right? And all the work that's happening at these retreats, I don't plan it. I mean, I rarely know, like, very far in advance what exactly is happening, but all of it has been dovetailing because they're all feeding into each other in the sense that one is required before the next one can happen because we need to be high enough in our resonance and clear enough distortions in certain areas before certain things can happen. And Scotland, to your question, well, I don't even know if you asked a question, but I'm going to pretend you did.
And what about Scotland?
Yeah, exactly. So Scotland, man, I have to tell you, when I, so it's going to be announced soon. And when I was writing the emails to describe what was happening in Scotland, I was crying. And I was like, okay, I don't usually weep when I write emails. It's not typically what happens for me. But so I'd always known since Peru, right? And then it started to amplify because of the San Miguel de Allende retreat, because we did quantum embodiment in San Miguel de Allende.
Can I just say that was massive?
Yeah.
I have never seen so many people shift so hard and fast.
Yeah, it's amazing what's happening.
It was glorious. That's again why I keep saying I cannot believe that guru. He's with the wrong company. That's it. The end.
So yeah, so with SMA, and then what's going to happen in Bainbridge. So it's interesting. Scotland is all about the Christ consciousness. Now, before everyone gets up in arms, I'm not talking about the being. I'm talking about the consciousness that is known as the Christ consciousness. There's a grid around the earth of the Christ consciousness, and it's specifically there to help us to awaken because it's highly vibrating, meaning it's of a higher dimensional order.
Yeah.
So it is there to help. But we need to be of a high enough vibration to be able to access it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because to your point, there's a difference between Jesus the man and the Christ consciousness that he embodied.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And he, I realize this is blasphemous for some people, but he's not the only being that embodied that consciousness because it's not, anything that's part of the one is open. It's not like one being has monopoly over a thing in the oneness. Everything is open. Everything is one. So there's no hoardings, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Not that that being would have done that, but my point is it's not like a single like monopoly on that one kind of consciousness. But anyway, other beings have embodied that consciousness. He's probably one of the most famous. And as we were sitting in our culture, in our culture, true. And as we were sitting in meditation about, okay, well, what is calling us here? Because we know it has to do with Christ consciousness. We know that we're going to Scotland to get to the frequency resonance where we can be in it more and embody it, right? As opposed to this thing that's like shown as like this perfected thing and we are not worthy of being able to embody this consciousness. I'm not talking about anything religious now. I'm just talking about the consciousness. And we have to get past all that crap, basically, and release all this distortion. But I'm like, there's something else. And what it is that the Christ consciousness in our understanding of it, our embodiment of it, our expression of it, has been really through the masculine, I mean, the man that was known as Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah.
And please know that I'm not a particularly religious person, so I'm going to get all the Bible stuff wrong. And but from what I understand, like there's very little representation of that in the feminine, and it's missing. And because of that, in our current existence, there is masculine and feminine. And right now, it's distorting, meaning the expression of that consciousness is distorting because there is this focus solely on the masculine. The feminine aspect of it, and I'm not talking about whether you're a male or a female body, okay? I'm talking about the feminine aspect, okay? We all have both the feminine and the masculine within us in different ratios, yeah? So I'm talking about the feminine expression that was first embodied by the being known as Mary Magdalene. And from what I understand, she was basically like reduced to the level of prostitute, I believe, right? In the stories, in the books and such. But that negation of the feminine is sort of like taking off half your body. You know, it's like it makes it very distorted because it's not a whole, it's not complete. So what we're going to be doing in Scotland is spectacular, to me anyway, which is to rediscover and honor the Magdalene frequency, which is the feminine expression of the Christ consciousness. Why? So that we can have a reunion of the masculine and the feminine expression. It's not negation. It's not so like, oh, the feminine is amazing and now the masculine sucks. That's not what it's about, right? I think that's been done enough for the past few thousand years now. So it's really about the reunion of the feminine and the masculine so the whole is clear and then we can embody this in a clear way. And it's really such an exciting thing for us as humans, I feel like, to start to embody the clarity of that whole expression. And also for it to be, to us to know that it's within us. You know what I mean? It's not this like elevated thing that we're not worthy of, that's outside of us, that we can't attain because we're not perfect. There's this weird veneer of perfection, which is kind of crazy because from what I understand, the being that was the man that was Jesus was not perfect.
Oh yeah, no, he had a tantrum in the temple.
Yeah.
I mean, they write openly about it. And possibly all these kind of deities and people that we put up on pedestals could be another fundamental reason why people are like, that's too hard. I can't be that. Why would I bother? Like you're saying, you know, that whole point of people don't want to awaken. Well, of course, if you got to be like Jesus, I mean, we're human, we're in a human body, and we don't allow each other to have our imperfections.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
That as humans, we don't allow it, you know. So sure. I'm sure if I was one of the people that were just starting and was listening to all this, we'd be like, oh, that sounds like a lot of hard work, and I could never be that way. Person.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And the thing is, my feeling is we're starting to embody something brand new, which is this consciousness as expressed through the humanness. Without negating the emotion, without negating the humanness. Like you are human. You're supposed to have it. You're supposed to be messy. You're supposed to not know what the hell's going on half the time. Like that's normal. And in the awakening process, it's about like, and there's this other aspect of me that isn't as run just by what's going on in my mind. And there is so much potential there. So like, my feeling is, I feel like in order to have that awakenedness, that understanding, feeling, realization of that greater aspect of you, you have to let go of who you think you are. And not everyone wants to do that.
Yeah, especially if they've invested a lot of time, money, energy, Instagram accounts and everything in it. I mean, it's a reality now, right? It's a business. It's become a business. Investing in that identity that you project out into the world. Imagine turning around to somebody that's earning $5 billion a year and saying, well, actually, you know, to awaken, you have to do something completely different.
Not everybody wants it. Exactly. And the thing is, it's amazing, is that, again, there are no accolades for awakening. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess you can imagine that, like, people will look up, I don't know what people think. Like, people will throw flowers at your feet. I don't know what people think is going to happen when you awaken.
Well, maybe you become Jesus.
Maybe walk in water, which would be, like, super cool. But anyway, my point simply is that, you know, I think that awakening is something that has been mythologized, if that's a word.
Well, we can make it a word tonight. Okay?
There's a lot of myth around. I think that part of this journey is to reclaim the humanness in awakening, and then to ask yourself, do I, like, it's a funny thing, do I want awakening, this projected idea of awakening, or am I willing to just release these patterns, these distortions, this identity, and see what the heck happens as a result? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to like this projected ideal of like what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay, and so just to finalize, because I'm sure there's loads of people who have questions there. In all the work that we're doing as Spherical Luminosity and the groups of people that come and take part in the retreats and the journeys, my hope is that by doing this work as a collective, as a mastermind, that we leave a space open for others to sort of look in and go, oh, that's possible. You know? Because it's not, like you say, it's not overt,
Yeah.
But inside, the change is happening in each individual.
Yeah.
And then they go home and people see that change.
Yeah.
And it becomes accessible then to others
Yeah.
around them. I mean, that's my dream and my hope.
Yeah.
That, you know, because of this cumulative effect,
Yeah.
that we will eventually maybe convince them people.
Well, I don't even know that we need to convince them. I think the ones who want it will see the possibility in you all. You know, I mean, there are people who are like, literally, it's amazing to me. People are who come in for IFCs are like, well, the reason I'm here is because I have a friend, and she has changed a lot since I've known, like just in the time that she's worked together. And I don't know what the hell exactly she's doing, but I'd like to have some of that.
Yeah. Frequency work, people.
So that's usually how it starts. Or there's a crisis, and then people jump in because they're like, well, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, it's
right?
interesting how
Yeah.
the higher aspects of each individual brings them to a certain point
Yes,
where they have a choice.
exactly. I mean, I certainly was.
I was too.
And I just want to mention this really quickly before we get to questions, because I think that it's an important thing to raise before we get to questions. So this is going to be an intense year. So I think I've been saying this consistently now for the past couple months. And it's not meant to scare you. It is meant to have you be prepared. Because the thing is, when the collective has a reaction, whether it's despair or fear or whatever, you have a choice when your frequency resonance is high enough to find within yourself a resonance that's different than what the collective is experiencing. And I mentioned this last night in LYB, or in Living Your Brilliance, which is such a really critical program at this time. It is to not get swept away in that collective, to understand that you are co-creating and that you have the choice as to where to put your attention and what you choose to amplify and how high your frequency resonance is. And it might sound like all of that experience is a punishment. It's not. It's meant to show within you what choice you have. What can you amplify? What can you be? So that, as we've talked about before, the ripple effect goes out into the field. So other people are like, wait a minute, I have a different choice than what is being presented as me as the only truth or the only experience, which is not true. And so I feel like I wanted to say this because in the coming, and just notice in your body how you're responding to this, but in, the next few weeks, there are things that are happening in the collective where it's going to tailspin a little bit. And in those moments, if you can remember this and just ask yourself, what frequency resonance do I wish to amplify?
Yeah.
What do I wish to put my attention on right now?
How much stronger do I want to be?
Yeah.
As well, for me, that's how I'm like when I move into a crowd or a group or a mastermind that is tipping in the direction of destruction rather than creation. I'm like, okay, no, digging my heels in, and I do not choose that.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and you don't have to choose it, which is perfect. So I think on that note, we're going to go to questions, and at the end of the questions, I think we're going to give something away.
So let's talk about the giveaway first.
Oh, I'm talking about the giveaway first. Okay, so
Time to formulate questions.
okay, so if you want to ask a question, please put like question mark, and then the question so that we can see it because there's a lot of you guys here. And then for the giveaway, what we're giving away is, I believe in April, it's tentative, okay, like at this point, because things are moving around. We're going to be giving a workshop on really addressing deep-seated loneliness, because it's happening right now. It's a problem where people are feeling really like separate and disconnected and like outside of, and like there's no one around them, and they're just lonely. And I feel like it's a challenge, whether it's for people who are part of spherical luminosity or people that who could use it. Anyway, that is going to be probably in April, so we're going to be giving away access to that workshop.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it's really needed right now.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, just kind of, especially I think for what's happening my feeling is at the end of March, probably will be about the right time.
Yeah.
Needed at that time is my feeling. Okay, so that's what we're giving away. So
Let's do the questions.
so we're going to do the questions first. I'm looking at my executive producer, who's Chris. All right, so questions. All right, so Chris is going to scroll for
Okay,
questions.
I only see one question, labeled question. I can't look at all the other comments, so this is the one question here.
Okay,
Do we
so
need
this
to
one right
do-
here. Yeah, from Angel Grace. Will you be connecting to the fairies in Scotland? How do they support our awakening? Oh, I love the fairies. Yes, we'll be connecting with the fairies in Scotland. In fact, we're going to the fairy pools in the Isle of Skye. Yeah, so the fairies are like a real thing. So for those of you who think they're only just from the fairy tales, no, you'd be wrong. And for those of you who are like totally excited that they're a thing, they're a thing. And, it's funny, the fairy world, just like the human world, is diverse. It's not like, because I think a lot of people think of the fairies as like Tinkerbell. You know?
Aye. I mean, I'm sure there are a couple like
Yeah,
that.
yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, they're
No,
real and
yeah.
they're naughty.
Yeah,
But
they're
some of them
naughty.
are really naughty.
Yeah, and they're different. They're very different. Like there are some that are like bigger, like significant, big, at least my experience. You have more experience because you grew up in the
Yeah.
British Isles and there's more of them
And
there.
there's a ton of them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I remember the first time I went to visit you in Ireland. We had arrived like the night before, and we woke up, and you're like, "Do you want to see the fairy glen?" I'm like, "Yes, I want to see the fairy glen. Hello." And I didn't know what to expect because I've never encountered fairies. I grew up in Montreal, Canada. There were no fairies there, at least that I was aware of.
That's sad.
I know, exactly. And anyway, so we walked into this little doorway. It was like right off the side of the highway. And it was almost like this little entrance.
Yeah.
And it looked like nothing because it was like a construction site and like some random stones. And then you're like, just keep going and go through. And you'll see a little gate, like portal thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then you had to show me like fairy etiquette, right? Because there's fairy etiquette, like you're supposed to bring stuff to them. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of things that you're supposed to do, which I didn't know because I don't know anything about fairies. I'm totally clueless. So anyway, we go in there and literally we walk through this portal and I was like, whoa, it feels totally different in here.
That
I
is
was
the
like,
magic of the fairies.
Yeah, and you can feel them like almost like laughing. It was crazy. I was like, "What is going on in here?" Anyhow, so to answer your question, yes, we're going to be playing with the fairies in Scotland. They are very different, like I said. So some of them are like tiny and very light, and some of them, from my experience anywhere, are like sort of like almost like little kids, like bigger, like humanoid. Those are the really naughty ones.
Oh yeah.
And then, and it's even to the point that like my husband Chris, who's always like, I don't feel anything. We'd be walking along we were walking along a road like to our Airbnb or something. He's like, "Is this the fairy glen?" I'm like, "Yep, fairy glen, check." You know what I mean? So yes, we're going to be playing with them. And how do they support our awakening? It depends on it. Well, they do different things from my understanding. They've helped me in different ways. And we portray them as having magic. Like, when Peter Pan, Tinkerbell does magic?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have that kind of thing going on, but that's not my experience of them.
No, and in general for me, when I'm with them, I mean, like you say, I would spend a lot of time with them because I feel very familiar with them.
Yeah.
But they would bring levity
Exactly.
to
Play.
a situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Play and levity and an appreciation for the present moment in nature. That's
Yes.
what I would always get.
Yeah.
So when my mind was busy or trying to figure stuff out, or if I was occupied with stuff, or if I was distracted a lot, I'd go down to the fairy glen.
Yeah.
And I'd take them a little bit of bread or the ribbon, they love ribbon,
Yeah.
tie ribbon to their tree and just sit. And then I'd immediately feel this
Like
chuckling
giggly,
and
giggly.
and then I'd look around and I'd have this appreciation for the moisture in the air and the smells
Yeah.
and just how soft the land felt, and things would start to feel soft.
Yeah.
So then I could move more easily with my energy.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe
Yeah.
how I've received help.
Yeah. It's like play. It's like being around. They're not dolphins, okay? So I'm not suggesting they're anything like dolphins, just to be super duper clear for those of you dolphin people out there. But dolphins have an element of play to them. They're always playing, and it's kind of like that with but they're softer in a way. I feel like, and it's a real. When I'm with them, it's like you said, a real reverence for the earth. This really lovely, soft, sparkly reverence for the earth, and just joyfulness. And we can talk about stories later about what happened when I asked for the blessing of the fairies, but they're amazing. As you said, it's like just bringing you into awareness that there's something beyond the seriousness of our outlook as humans.
Yeah.
that's
sure.
out there on the earth.
And then, and when I would connect them, I'd feel my heart field would really expand.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah, there's a lot of love. A lot of love.
yeah.
All right. So, okay. All right, so Mighty Savage, I guess. And then Ting. Do we all have magical creatures supporting us on our journey? Well, I think it depends on what you call a magical creature. And I feel like oftentimes we aren't aware of them. You know? I think that happens a lot with people. Like we're kind of dense and we're kind of up in our heads a lot, so we don't really notice. And even kids these days, at least I've noticed in the US, they're so involved with their phones and they're so like micromanaged by their parents a lot that they don't play in the same way and they're not as free in the same way.
Yeah.
It's weird because I've noticed that, and I you know, I'm not trying to poo-poo American culture, but I've just noticed this weird little shift that's happened. And because I was even saying to Chris the other day, because I was watching this little girl play, and she was just like jumping onto a wall because she thought it was freaking hilarious. So she and her brother were like jumping on this little like raised wall, and they thought it, like they were just like did that over and over and over again. And that's all they were doing. It wasn't like, but I was like, I remember when kids used to play like this, and I don't see that. I mean, at least when we lived in San Francisco at the time, I did not see children playing like that anymore. And so I think that depending on how open you are and aware you are, you become more aware of other beings around you. A lot of people will dismiss it as imagination. You know? Do we all have magical creatures? I don't know if they're necessarily supporting you per se, but they're around you a lot.
I think they're accessible.
Yeah, exactly. They're there.
I don't know if they're necessarily there to help you
No.
do a specific thing, but they're accessible.
Yeah. So they're just there, kind of like people are just there, but it's not like they necessarily. It's funny, as humans, I think we think that they need to be doing something for us, maybe, but they don't. Sometimes they just like to play. I know it sounds like terrible, but
be
it's
left alone.
actually,
You're part of the field. I'm in this part.
Exactly. So they don't always support us, but yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Great. Kim, is that who I'm answering?
Sure.
Great. Could you put Kim's question on, please? Does the ego mind of each of us attempt to distract us from practices that assist awakening? Well, I don't know that it's really the ego mind. To me, it's more the pain body. The pain body. I mean, those two can go hand in hand together, but the pain body is a pain in the freaking ass. Sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on YouTube, but
Too late.
but it is. It interferes a lot with people's progress. It really wants to maintain sameness. It also can do all kinds of stuff to make us like just derailed, especially at the beginning when you have a lot of distortion.
Jeepers, not being able to get on calls.
Yes.
Everybody else is being able to get on their other IFC, but not me.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing.
And that happens a lot. And it's kind of fascinating when someone is trying and all this weird technology stuff and it's happening only for this one person. I'm like, pain body. Because the thing is, when you start to shift in your resonance and you start to release distortion patterns, what happens is, like I've mentioned, your big S self, or the self that is aware that's infinite indestructible consciousness, becomes more dominant.
Yeah.
Right? So like the pain body and the ego mind are still there. It's not like they've gone away because we're human. But it's like they are less like the boss of you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they kind of don't like it. They're kind of like a cranky 2-year-old. They're like, I want to be the boss of you. You know what I mean? That's kind of their way. And they're really like, and the pain body, man, can really, yes, so it can derail you. It's fascinating, like you said, like with IFCs or even retreats. Sometimes like people trying to get to a retreat, like obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And it's interesting for me to watch people because they'll be like, am I not supposed to go? And my question is always like, well, what's stopping you from getting here? You know? And that kind of thing. So I find that fascinating. So the pain body can interfere in that way. So yes, to answer your question, Kim, yes, it can interfere, and it will, like, for example, like if you, for example, know, like I have to go into meditation and listen to this GFC, I feel really strongly like I need to do it. And then all of a sudden, like all your day will go into chaos, right? Like this thing comes up and that thing comes up and this comes out of the blue, blah, 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 right? And then by the end of the day, you're too exhausted and you don't do the thing. So you have to be really aware of the
Clever little thing, buddy.
I know, like, and so the thing is, even if you're too exhausted, my thing with the pain body is like you turn on the GFC anyway. You're
Yeah.
like, even if I freaking fall asleep, pain body, this is what's happening,
Yeah.
right? So if that's helpful, Kim, so to answer your question, yes, and hopefully a little bit more. Okay. Grace, I guess, and then Sandra. You done because it's already before or after. Grace. Okay, Grace. Is spiritual bypassing something we have to look out for when trying to be on the path to awakening? And how do we define the difference between, the difference between spiritual bypassing and awakening? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't quite understand the question. So spiritual bypassing is, to me, when you want to have an experience, so just for people who don't know, who want to have a certain experience of awakening, so they don't deal with the bullshit, really, of all the stuff that's internal and all the distortion patterns. So you're just like, nope, doesn't apply to me, don't have these distortions, everything's all good, it's a problem for everyone else but me, right? That I'm exaggerating, I'm making light, but that's kind of what spiritual bypassing is, and we do it in different ways, basically. And this is, again, dovetails into the last question we answered with regards to the pain body and the ego mind, right? So the ego mind's slippery. It will do all these kinds of machinations to like have you not examine, okay, so that it will be less dominant. So spiritual bypassing, to me, is what I just explained. Awakening is the process that is not definable by you, because if you have an idea of what awakening is, it probably is not going to be that for you.
Exactly. The word that comes to mind is embracing.
Yeah.
Embracing what needs to unfold.
Exactly.
And that includes your humanness.
Yes.
With all its amazing flaws.
Exactly. And it's not like, I think people, like I said, if you have an idea of what awakening is, it's probably not going to be correct for you. Because it's a projection from your mind as opposed to a lived experience because of your resonance. So part of the awakening process, to me, is to let go of what you think awakening is. And also, I know it's going to sound terrible, I'm sorry, but the desire in a way to awaken, meaning the yearning for it, like it's outside of you and you can't have it, you know? And so part of that is, as you do frequency work, it starts to become less and less important what it looks like. Less and less important how it's explained to you. Less and less important about how you talk about it, or even your need to talk about it.
And I'd like to add in there as well, it's like there's this deep understanding that I am actually already awakened. I never was asleep. I just forgot. Because all the layers or stuff crap that's on top of it. So it's not something that ever has to be attainable anymore. It's like, okay, I just gotta dig for it.
Exactly. Just remember it.
Remember,
And so, so spiritual bypassing, you know what it is because it's your mind. Your mind wants something to be certain and definable and that type of thing. Or you don't want to look at the hard stuff. That to me is spiritual bypassing.
And denial.
Denial or an unwillingness to look. Because it's interesting to me, you know, I've run into people who are like, I'm like, are you not aware that you have this pattern? And they're like, nope, don't have it. But in their no, it's like you can feel the closure. Like I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see it. There's no openness. I'm not suggesting that you take whatever I say as true. Never.
No.
Like I'm not like, you must believe what I tell you. I'm not saying that. What I'm suggesting in this illustration is just like, there's no openness to examine at all.
Like a phrase like, oh, really? I must take a look at that.
Or something like that. You know, like, I'll have to like introspect on that or whatever, or sit with it or whatever it is that you think. But that's my point, is about that closeness. So I think that all of that stuff is the mind, and that's how you know you're spiritually bypassing. And awakening is not something that you can plan, and it's not necessarily something that you can, it'll be different for all of you. You know, like your own path is yours.
Yeah.
And if you, like, there are commonalities between people's experiences of awakening, but I don't feel like there's one set way that is like the correct way.
No.
You know, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous almost.
I think for me the difference between the two is that one is incredibly human and the other is avoiding being human.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's how I've experienced spiritual bypassing versus the path to finding that awakening
Yeah.
aspect of self.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
And I think the other thing too with spiritual bypassing, there's this clinging to the idea of perfection and how you want to be perceived.
yes.
So if there's anything about that, like wanting to appear a certain way to people or wanting to be a certain kind of perfection that you don't feel like you are, probably something to look at.
Yeah.
So hopefully, Grace, that answers your question. All right, last one. Okay. When we feel and know,
She says, when we feel awakened.
when we feel awakened, can't it be more of a come and go process?
Can it be more?
Can it? Sorry, did I read that wrong? Can it be more of a come and go process? So I think that we all have different levels. Like I said, it's like awakening is not like a single point. It's varying degrees as your resonance starts to rise, and your experience of it will shift as your resonance changes.
Yeah.
That's what I've observed in others and observed just generally speaking. And I feel like we can have flashes of insight, these moments where you are in the awakened state. Because I've seen this a lot in retreats, like literally people who have done, like in Austin,
Yeah.
when we did spiritual alchemy, that thing was amazing. Like people walked in with no frequency work. They were like, why the hell am I here? And why have you dragged me?
Yeah.
And they literally, within like 2 days, were having awakened moments where they were having these expanded perceptions that they were very like not prepared for in a way, because they didn't know what it was going to be. So it was perfect because they didn't have a projection of it.
Yeah.
So can you have flashes of awakening? Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing for me is, and it's not about trying to do something. What happens is your resonance gets high enough, it stabilizes a bit.
Yeah.
You know, so like your set point or your bottom, your floor, so to speak, shifts up, right? So instead of just having like this moment of awakened, which anybody can have, by the way, it's not exclusive to anybody.
Yeah.
So yes, for sure, you can have moments of these awakened flashes, but the thing is, how does your life change after that?
Yeah.
You know, like what does your life look after that? How are you after that? How do things shift after that? And being able to maintain that resonance that's higher, that's the bit that's like not challenging, but that's where the work is really.
Yeah, and that's where I think the human part comes in. Maybe that's what that question's alluding to. That you're going to have really human days.
Yeah.
And yeah, your frequency might drop a little bit.
Yeah.
But how quickly you can bring that back up.
Yes.
That's the pivotal point, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that maybe it feels like it comes and goes because of that, but the thing to focus on is how quickly can I get that back up?
Yes.
You know, and how quickly can I recognize, wait, my frequency's dropping, I'm letting whatever impact my frequency resonance, okay, I gotta do this something.
To get back
bring
into
this
my
back
center.
up.
Yeah. Get back into my center and get back up. Yeah.
So maybe that's part of that feeling of I'm coming and going with this. But I mean, I think that's always going to be part of the journey in a way, really, isn't it? And I don't know. I mean, who knows? You know, do we get to a point where the resonance just stays and gets even higher, but then you're still going to have that experience of it,
the humanness
from here to here.
Yeah.
From here
to there. Yeah. I think that's true, especially in the embodiment. I mean, that's been the experience so far.
Yeah.
And I feel like a part of that process, and I feel like we're starting to do this more and more, is to be okay with the fact that you drop in resonance.
Yeah.
You're like, because I think, or at least I'll speak for myself, when I was in the, like getting to the point where I was navigating it more, I would get upset with myself because I was like, crap. I mean, I just that moment, man, that was not awesome how I responded there. I'm totally spinning out. This is suboptimal at best.
How dare I be human?
Exactly. And I would get really upset with myself. But I feel like part of that process is that you start to laugh at yourself more.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of like, okay, I'm just have my human moment. Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of like, you know, dust yourself off and you're like, okay, All right.
And
All right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for
showing
showing
me
me. Yeah.
where I still need to do a little bit more work.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like, where did I not be present right there? Okay, so,
Mhm.
all right, so I didn't. That's okay. So that happened. All right, so let me come into my center now.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's the thing that's important in that process, because I think it's not this like seamless, ever present, glowing experience.
Yeah, life is
It's
always going to be bliss.
and amazing and without challenge and all that. I think that's an idealized perception from the mind, because we don't like challenge. We
Yeah.
actually like comfort.
It's interesting because I used to want that. And
Yeah.
now all I can think about when I hear you say that is, that sounds really boring.
Boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want more challenge.
Yeah.
Well, no, hang on. Wait a little bit more.
Well, it keeps it interesting. And the thing is, I mean, if you're somebody who likes to grow, you
That's
you
it.
start to understand that the challenge is there. And you're like, okay, this kind of sucks, but I can transcend this. I don't know how yet. That's all right. I can.
And I'm going to be stronger for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So hopefully that answers your question, Sandra. All right. So thank you for all your wonderful questions. We couldn't get to all of them. But thank you for asking them. And I think we're going to do the giveaway. What?
Yeah, we're just waiting for people to type in the giveaway now.
Okay, so if whoever wants the giveaway, please only write #giveaway.
Yeah, like one word.
One word. One
The
word.
system just looks for the.
Yeah, because if you don't put the hashtag, the system can't see you. So make sure you put the hashtag, like the little hashtag before the word. All right. Okay. So I'm supposed to be buying time for people to write #giveaway. So soon we're gonna give it a roll though. Okay, so just for people to know, if people are interested in Scotland, I think we're going to be announcing it in the next
2 days?
couple of days. Yeah, it should go out this week. So if you guys are interested in that and learning more about our adventure there,
I'm so excited.
I know, I'm really excited too. I get like weirdly weepy about it. It's kind of weird but cool at the same time. And then Bainbridge, for those of you guys who want to know, it's actually interesting to me how Bainbridge is coming in, because Bainbridge, by the way, is June 21st to the 23rd. Bainbridge, for those of you who do not know, is off of Seattle. It's just a little island, the ferry ride away from Seattle. And it is about love and relationship, because I feel like a lot of what we know in the old consciousness and the old paradigm about love is really heavily distorted. And I don't mean intimate partnership only. Okay? Like, people hear me
No.
talk about this and they think just like with a partner,
No.
you're in relationship with like
Everything.
lots of people and lots of things. So this is about, we called it upgrading the algorithm of loving in the new consciousness, because there really is no map for this kind of loving where you have enough of your distortions cleared, where you can like be in that beloved state and also be in relationship with people who aren't necessarily wanting the same growth as you or being in the same resonance as you or anything like what you, they just don't want to. And the thing is, you want to be in relationship with them. So like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
You have to be.
And, or you have to be, because they're your family. Hi, Mom. Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. Oh my God, I'm gonna get so smacked for that. It's all right. So anyway.
So that's Mackie.
I know, right? So anyway.
So I'm going to do the giveaway now.
Yeah, so we're going to do the giveaway now. So Bainbridge is, just for you guys to know, June 21st to 23rd, and Scotland is September 2nd to the 11th. All right, so we're doing the giveaway at this point in time. Chris is going to do his giveaway magic-y thing. So not to
I love this thing.
I know, I think it's really cool.
I like that we get to see it as well.
Yeah. Okay. Allow. Okay. So go.
I'd like to see if I can read all the names. Oh, that was a big name. What was that one?
Sarah Holmes! Woo!
Lucky Sarah.
I know. Coolio. We should get confetti. And then we can like throw it. I think that would be amazing. Chris hates glitter. Because it's like whenever I
gets
use glitter,
everywhere.
it gets everywhere. He's like, it's in my underwear.
I was just gonna say.
I hate your glitter.
I was gonna say something a little bit, but I won't. Because you would say it in Scotland, so maybe we wouldn't say it. Oh, yeah.
Okay, congratulations, Sarah Holmes. If you could write into info@sphericalluminosity.com, our fantastic customer service team will help you get access to it. Don't worry, even if it's like late April, you will still get access. So don't worry about it. Okay, so just let them know that you are the one who won, and we will take care of you. So we are now going to move into the group frequency calibration.
Alrighty. Where are we going?
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing, it has to do with really having to do with clarity around your ego mind. So this actually goes to the question that Grace asked, like what's the difference between spiritual bypassing and awakening? Okay, so what we're going to address in this GFC is like the mental stuff around awakening. You know, feeling like we can't, all the mental like projection around it. You know, there's a lot of like mental like blah, 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 around awakening. And that's what we're going to address in the GFC so that people can have the most momentum. Okay? So Chris is going to be really amazing and come over and fix my mic so you guys can hear me. So if you can just wait for a moment, that would be amazing. Because, you know, my tone drops and then people are like, what the hell is she saying? We used to have this thing. I've probably told this story too many times. I'm sorry. We used to have this thing. It was an extendable like metal rod, and we called it the Karen prod. What is that? The Karen stick?
Not the cattle prod.
Yeah, the Karen prod. And whenever my voice would drop, Chris will like poke me. Oh my God. All right, good times. All right, here we go. So, oh, wait just a minute. I'm just gonna check, Chris to go check my volume. Aw, thanks, Selena. Look at our blue out. She's enjoying our blue outfits. Thank you. We're good to go? Okay, fantastic. All right, guys, here we go. Settling in. Oh. And let's rise together. Becoming aware of your body, please. And as you become aware of your body, becoming aware of your body as a whole. Okay, so noticing your body from perhaps the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, or if you prefer the inverse. Perhaps you notice your body from your skin all the way deep, 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 deep within, or perhaps very deep in all the way out to your skin. However you become aware of your entire body. Becoming aware of its heaviness. As you sink further into whatever is supporting you. Noticing the heat of your body against whatever is supporting you. And now please become aware of your breath. Noticing how shallow or how deep your inhale is. And notice the length of your exhale. Becoming aware of the in-between your inhale and your exhale, and the in-between your exhale and your inhale. Good. Becoming aware, please, of the very center of your solar plexus, which is between your belly button and the base of your sternum. pulling us all further into the 0 point of space and time. Yeah. And if you can, lightly bringing your attention to the very center of your heart as you keep most of your attention in the very center of your solar plexus. For some of you, you may be feeling an expansion happening through, within, around your heart space, even though you're anchored in the center of your solar plexus. Good. Excellent. Bringing your attention to just the heart space for a moment, please. And I mean the heart space in the center of your chest and your nipple line. Asking yourself the question, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself this question, it's like you're starting to initiate or take a running jump in terms of your own vibrational level. I'm going to catch you on the top end of your jump and pull your resonance even higher, irrespective of where it began. And as I'm doing that, imagining, sensing, feeling your own brilliance from deep within the heart, expanding out in all directions. There we go. Lightly aware of the brilliance of the field of the one. Nice. Bringing your attention now, please, to the xiphoid process right at the base of your sternum, which is that big, thick bone in the center of your chest where your ribs meet in front of your body, all the way down to the midpoint of your solar plexus. So it's not a big distance. Hang on. Right. So this has to do with the addiction pattern to the mind. So we're very addicted to our thoughts, our stories, our attribution of meaning, all kinds of things. So we're very addicted to our minds and our mind chatter. Now, for some of you, this is less of an issue. So just giving you more space from your own thoughts, your own meanings, all that stuff. They're just thoughts. And for those of you who have more trouble not being in your mind, meaning having more association with the thoughts, releasing this additional addiction pattern here. Just a moment. Really keeping your attention to this space between the xiphoid process and the midpoint of the solar plexus. It's very, very possible that your mind will wander or want to wander. And my suggestion is to bring it firmly and gently back to this space in the body. Mm-hmm. There we go. Bringing your attention now, please, to the lower back half of your brain or your brain stem. Okay. So we're releasing this is a survival pattern, oddly. But we're releasing this pattern that if your mind stills too much or you have too much distance from it, that you somehow will not be safe or you're under threat or something bad will happen. So we're going to release this. For some of you, there's a little subgroup here that if you give yourself more distance from the mind, that you'll be out of control and in chaos in a bad way. And for another subgroup, this is just resistance to releasing certain parts of identity. Okay, so it's really different depending on who you are. Some of you, it's all of it. Good. Yeah. Excellent. Bringing your attention, please, now to the front of the heart space. And the top half of your solar plexus. So there are a lot of stories around awakening. Some of them are yours. Some of them are projections from our culture and our lineages. Some of them are remnants from your past lives. A little story around it. Your path in your awakening process is unique to you. It doesn't have to be defined by someone else's story. So releasing these stories. Imagining, sensing, feeling a brilliant blueness that fills this space. Good. Excellent. Bringing your attention now, please, to the inside of your lower ribs. So we're going to release this attachment to the meaning of awakening to you. Like what it means if you awaken or if you don't. And the attachment to all that. Let's release this. Whew. And right behind it, we're going to release this attachment to the people that you love having an awakening experience. That, for some of you, is actually harder than the one for yourself. So, in any case, releasing both. Whew. Yeah. Imagining, sensing, feeling a clear, crystalline light. That expands through this space. Good. And now please bring your attention to underneath your chin, all the way down the front of your body to the base of your groin. We're going to release this pattern of non-worthiness, of awakening. That somehow you are too dense, too slow, too broken, too something, simply not enough. Softening into this space, this front surface of the body. Mm-hmm. Good. Becoming aware, please, now of the space between your temples. Okay, so between your left temple and your right temple. In addition to your lower belly, please. All right. This is the thought form. It's also a religious distortion pattern. It's also a control pattern. That in order to be awake, you must be perfect. It's simply not true. You have to have a higher vibrational level, but that does not mean perfection. So, releasing. So, there's this other pattern, which is slightly different, is that you must be pure, which is kind of a strange thing to be in here, but there it is. So for some of you, it's not only do you have to be perfect, you have to be pure, whatever that means. So essentially, it's unattainable. Let's release that. Imagining, sensing, feeling the brilliant blackness of the void expanding through this space. The void is the place of absolute dissolution and absolute potential. Allowing this brilliant blackness. There we go. Yep. Good. Becoming aware now, please, of your pineal gland all the way in a straight line down into the base of your groin. This has to do with expectation. The expectation of what your experience will be once you awaken, your expectation of what the awakening process is. a lot of expectation here. And in addition to it, we're going to deal with the pattern of disappointment of failed expectation, which for some of you is really heavy. And there's a little tiny subgroup here which has this interesting distortion, which is the expectation that you will not awaken. So it's like you're going to try, but your expectation is that you will fail. So that's kind of a hard one, yeah? So let's release that. Here we go. And we're going to get this little subgroup here, which is the fear of being left behind. Good. Yeah. Bringing your attention to the entire heart space, please. And as you bring your attention to the heart space, this has to do with it's a kind of blindness, actually, as to how powerful you really are. You may see others as powerful, but not yourself. I don't mean power over anyone. I'm just talking about your own power. So as I'm working to release this pattern, imagining a brilliant yellow expanding through your heart space in all directions, so that your heart becomes this enormous, magnificent sun. Really lovely. Bringing your attention now to that xiphoid process, right at the base of your sternum, and about 3 inches or 7 centimeters directly beneath it, in a straight line towards the belly button. Clearing out the pain body, because as many of you know, your pain body has a memory of you before the frequency work was done, which makes integration a little clunkier and slower than it needs to be. There we go. Good. Everyone take a deep breath in, please. Holding it in for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling with sound. Holding your breath out for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whenever you are ready, breathing normally. Good. You can stay in this space for a couple minutes longer, just being in this resonance. And then whenever you're ready, blinking your eyes open and looking at something inanimate. And if you've enjoyed this YouTube Live, after it ends, if you wouldn't mind helping us out by hitting the like button and commenting so other people like you can find it, we'd really appreciate it. Or I would really appreciate it. All right, guys. Until next time. Bye for now.